Welcome on Texas football. It's time for a little Longhorn talk on a Sunday night to New Year's Eve 2023. Tomorrow about this time, the guys will be taking the field, getting ready for warm-ups, CJ, 24 hours away for the Longhorns. No less than that, you've got Michigan and Alabama going ahead of the Longhorns tomorrow in the Rose Bowl as well. CJ, you're now in New Orleans after spending the last 48 hours in Orlando. You made it to New Orleans today. You've been out and about a little bit. What's your feel? I've been here since, I guess, Thursday night. What's been your feel thus far?
Yeah, I got in probably around 1:45 last night. So didn't get to see a whole lot of the town yesterday, but I was able to kind of check it out today. I'm staying over by Tulane, kind of in the Garden District, but everywhere I've gone, I've seen a lot of orange. There's been some purple kind of filtered in as well. But right now, I mean, the orange is kind of dominating the streets and from where I am right now. And I think that was kind of the expectation with how close it was to Texas.
Yes, it is. I think that I described it as about 80-20 Texas over the Husky faithful that are here. How you doing, Rod Babers?
Doing good, fellas. Doing good. Appreciate you.
I hope you have good Sunday night, New Year's Eve planned with the new baby in tow, etc. Rob, we were just talking about it here, CJ and I got a couple of notes to pass along. The line now is down to about 3.5 on BetMGM.
Okay.
So it sounds like some of the numbers going in Washington's way here at the very end. Not a huge amount, by the way, just some. Also, a little recruiting note for folks. Deuce Williams, Anthony Williams out of Pearland's Shadow Creek is set to announce his decision tomorrow at 4:30 in the afternoon. We'll have the results of that decision here on Texas football. Obviously, tomorrow we're also going to be at Manning's in New Orleans, hanging out, talking a little football. Rod will be there with us as well, virtually. CJ and I will be there in one-on-one or actually in front of the crowd and talking a little Longhorn football. Guys, any last-minute thoughts that we need to talk about here today? I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, whether it's the last press conference of the pregame today with Sark and Kalen DeBoer, whether it's the money line, whether it's recruiting, or whether it's the game itself. Any kind of final thoughts before we get going and really seeing what's going to happen in this Sugar Bowl?
Yeah, I'm a game itself guy, so I'm still focused on the matchup. I figure, I always had a coach tell me, before the game, probably 48 hours to 24 hours before the game, that's where we are now. Game plan is in, everything's installed, it's done, right? Players know everything. With this much time in between your last game and the bowl game, I mean, you've done extensive rabbit holing about the opposing team. You know all the trends, you know all the patterns, you know everything. And I had a coach tell me at this point, assume that the opposing coach has all of your trends and your keys figured out, and assume that your game plan doesn't work. Said this is you need to be spitballing emergency game worst case scenarios. Assume your game plan doesn't work. Assume that all the work you've done, you got to throw it out. What do you do? What do you do if your game plan, you figured out in the first 2 series of the game, oh, yeah, it's not going to work. Put a lot of work into this game plan. This is not going to work. They got us. How do you adapt on the fly? And you almost have to have those think tank scenarios with your coaching staff a little bit. And it helps you expand your kind of creativity and innovation, I think, into the game plan. At this point, everything's in, so there's no need to do exhaustive research unless you find some little golden nugget. But at this point, I do think that's where you get into breaking tendency, that if they got everything figured out, what's your go-to? For Texas last year, actually, it was empty formation. Sark ran empty formation more than he did last year in that bowl game than he did in any other game. Makes sense, right? Running backs injured. Your running game wasn't working. You was averaging less than 3 yards per carry. Why the hell are you going to keep running your head into a brick wall? What if it doesn't work? All right, you know what, Quinn? We don't have Bijan Rojo. X-Man's having a bad game. He's dropping everything. He's got a broke hand. Running game ain't working. Quinn, you're it. And we'll go extreme to that point where we'll even go empty formation next. And so that's what I'm getting into the game plan. Like, what are these teams going to do? What's the tendency breaker, right, Marco? What tendency do you think Sark breaks? What tendency do you think PK breaks? I think one of the things I think PK is going to do, I think he's going to break the tendency of blitzing. I think you got to blitz. I think you're going to, even though you got Byron Murphy, you got T'Vondre Sweat, so you can get a lot of organic pressure. Pressure doesn't always mean you're going to get to Michael Penix. They can get the ball out quickly like they did last year, 0 to 9 yards. He was 16 of 18, getting the ball out quickly. They can resort to that when the deep ball intermediate game is not working. I think you need to blitz. And blitzing, by the way, it doesn't always mean you're going to get home, but you can disrupt him. His completion percentage drops precipitously when he goes against the blitz, right? It drops to below 60%. Last year against Texas, he had it below a 60% completion percentage. So I think Texas is a team that doesn't like to blitz a lot. I can see them being a heavy blitz team in this game early on.
Interesting. What about you? What about you, CJ? You have any final thoughts here?
I liked what Rod said in terms of breaking tendency. I go back, and I think Rod has alluded to it in the past with the Athletic article that was kind of surveying the anonymous Big 12 coaches, and their big point there was we really don't know what Sarkisian's tendency is going to be coming into the game. He kind of rotates it and mixes it up, and it's a true you never know what's behind the door kind of scenario when you face a Texas offense with Sarkisian, because he's so good at being prepared to deploy a game plan that probably hasn't been 100% at the forefront of the opponent's preparation. So I think that's important coming in. And then obviously I think the biggest thing for tomorrow is just the start. And I've touched on this in the past. All the hype, all the excitement, everything that comes with being a top 4 team in the country, playing in the semifinal for a chance to play in the national title, you have to bring it right away. This is not a game where Texas can allow themselves to get down by double digits, 2 scores, 2 possessions, anything along the lines of that. They have to be able to maintain a close or even an edge in that first half, because we know just how explosive that Washington offense is early on in games specifically.
I completely agree with portions of that. I'm gonna say this, and it's somebody that just someone in the comments, guys, just wrote it. And my thing is this: win in the trenches. Mark said it. If Texas can win in the trenches, last year they didn't necessarily, Rod and CJ. We may have expected them to, but they didn't. I think Washington actually won in the trenches, at least on its offense, beat the Texas defense in some respects. So I think Texas is going to be looking for a little payback. And then we know Texas didn't run the ball well on Washington a year ago. We believe that was partially because of the running back situation. But still, the reality of it is that, Texas wins in the trenches. I think Texas has a real good chance of winning this game. If not, they already have a good chance of winning this game, but they win in the trenches. That's where they're actually going to win it at, is what my kind of final thinking is. Yes, they have to do some other things. They have to score, they can't do poorly in the red zone, Rod. We've talked about that, right? There's other prerequisites, but I believe that's got to be the piece that matters the most, if at all possible. All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more. CJ, I want to get from your perspective. You were down in Orlando, and Rod and I were talking about this yesterday. Tell us a little bit more about what you saw down in Orlando. Start maybe with our guy, Jarrett Gibson, because you seem to be really impressed with him. That's the running back out of IMG Academy that signed with Texas just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, no,
I was impressed with a couple of the guys' physiques. I thought Zena looked good. Colin looked more filled out than I thought he would be. And then obviously Xavier Phil-Sami, seeing him in person for the first time in over a year. You see these guys in person, and you're like, yeah, it makes sense that they're, Under Armour All-Americans. They look good. And then you see Jarrett Gibson, and you're thinking, oh, he's already gone through college. It looks like he's already been through, 3 off seasons of college workouts already. He's, that built, that sturdy, that impressive physically, that when you watch him run and you see him catch passes, you're like, how does the two go together? And I won't say he doesn't have the most natural hands. He's not going to be that guy that I think Texas relies on, over and over again in the passing game. But the hands are there enough to where you have to respect the passing game when he's on the field at the next level. There were a few catches last night that I saw him kind of roll out on a wheel route, down the field, 20 yards, 25 yards, and it just felt seamless. It was impressive. And when you watch him run and you watch him cut, he doesn't fall into that bowling ball kind of category that you see guys at 5'10", 215, 220, what he will eventually be. You don't see that kind of stiffness with him, which is impressive. And so I was really encouraged. Obviously, Bobby, you and I were both big Christian Clark fans coming in to the signing day. And, I mean, seeing the two, obviously, on film is encouraging. Seeing Jarrett Gibson in person, I like a lot about what Coach Choice did with getting Jarrett Gibson into the class. Really impressive prospect.
Gotcha. Anybody else down there catch your eye, really? Anything else that you saw that you said, hey, wait a minute, this dude might be a guy? I know you saw Dominic McKinley, Terry Bussey was down there, some other guys Texas has sniffed around as far as recruiting. Anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you, Terry Bussey, whether he's a wide receiver or defensive back, wherever he is on the field, he's going to make plays. He's that impactful. He's that athletic, and he just understands the game of football well enough to be in the right position wherever he's at on the field. But I want to go back real quick to another Texas signee, Zena Umeozulu, a guy that I've watched several times over the last 2 years. That was the best he's looked against good competition, no less, that I've seen, in probably since I've started covering his recruitment. I've seen him twice in action early in the season. So last year was against Cam Dewberry against Atascocita, and then this year is against Byron Washington at DeSoto. Both times you kind of sit back and you wonder, I see the tools, I see the physicalness. When is he going to get into the backfield and become, kind of that impactful game breaker that you expect a 4-star defensive end to be? When does that come? And the one-on-one clips today that I was able to see on Twitter and social media, he was that game breaker. And that frame is going to add pounds, and it's going to add pounds quickly. So the bend, the athleticism is there. The weight will come, and I think Texas is going to get a guy who will be impactful and on the field often over the next 3-4 years.
All right, we're going to reset a little bit here and tell everybody this is the On Texas Football Sunday afternoon live stream. We're going out tonight. I've got a function with some folks at the University of Texas I've got to go to. Of course, everybody's going to have some sort of New Year's plans. So we were trying to get it in early, but we wanted to make sure we came to you live from New Orleans. The Sunday afternoon live stream brought to you by our friends at the Cross Group. If you're interested in political consulting, business development, or anything from the State House to the White House, give our friends at Cross Oak Group a shout. That's crossoakgroup.com. They've been a great sponsor for us this entire season. We really appreciate them. Guys, we look at it, and I was talking to some folks today. Sark actually took to the mic this morning early and talked about his team. I did a little digging. He gave the team off this afternoon. Now they've got it. Don't get me wrong. They have a curfew. They have some stuff to do tonight, team meetings and stuff. But he gave the team off most of today. Rod, do you think that's normal for a coach? The reason I bring this up is Sark had mentioned, hey, I want my guys to not feel too much pressure. I want them to feel like we're trying to take this as it's supposed to be and not overexert ourselves a little bit. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think he wants them to play loose, right? You want your guys to play loose. And in order for them to be loose, they got to play with this hard in this situation, play without the pressure, right? Play like they feel pressure, play like they're going out there, they're playing for one another. They're playing just as a team. And I think that's what he wants. He wants those guys, if they're going to get together, which they are. And he talked about this, that when he went to he would go to the suite where they would have all of the goodies and everything, right? The hospitality suite for all the players. They would always have one for the bowl games. And he remarked every time he'd go in there, they'd be like the whole damn team was in there. Like everybody's just in there kicking it. It wasn't just a few clicks or a few position. I was like, no, everybody was in there just hanging out, having a good time. I think he understands at this point, man, game plan's in. I mean, guys, they know what they're supposed to do. Everybody knows their assignment at this point. Everybody knows their duties. Everybody's probably as healthy as they've ever been. At this point, before the game, you want the guys to remember what they're playing for. And what they're playing for is each other. All right. So, we can try to have a walkthrough and all that kind of stuff. But as a coach, that's at this point, it's fruitless. That doesn't make any damn sense. You've done all that. That's the game plan's in. Like I said, at this point, the coaches need to be getting together, talking about, hey, man, these possible scenarios, this could happen. But the team itself, the players, they're playing for each other. All right. They're playing for the name on the front of the jersey, name on the back of the jersey. That's each other. That's their families. Let them go hang out. Let them go remember what it's all about. They're prepared. They're ready to go. They'll be, trust me, at this point, those guys know how to dial back in. They won't get distracted. I don't think, considering what's on the line, I'd be shocked if some guy stayed out too late, broke curfew, had to be suspended, for the game, stuff like that. No, man, it's considering what's on the line and the football character of this team. Sark is, I think, wise to trust them. He's wise to trust them, even in New Orleans.
Even in New Orleans, and it's not the Alamo Bowl, right?
No,
that's one thing that Sark talked about early in that presser. He's talking about these young guys and how Jordan Whittington had said that the young guys are kind of making sure that they take advantage of this opportunity, because opportunities like this don't come around very often. There's no guarantee you're in the college football playoff next year or the year after. Sark used the term cherish the moment.
Yep.
Make sure you care about being here. And that means, frankly, that means taking advantage of what's brought to you, and not just, sitting in there and going out on Bourbon Street the night before a game or 2 nights before the game, et cetera. So I don't think we have to worry about that too much. We're going to talk a little bit more. CJ, I want to bring up another guy because you mentioned him to me, and I made a comment today on him in a recruiting report I put out there, and I think it's important to step back around on him, and that is Daniel Cruz. You had mentioned to me you really, really liked the young man out of North Richland Hills in the practices that you saw at Under Armour.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where these kids are all Americans, and you walk in, you see offensive linemen, defensive linemen specifically, and you think, yeah, I can tell why. All of them are 6'4", 6'5", and they look the part. They're all 280, 330 pounds, whatever it is. They're physically impressive. And then you watch, some of the interior guys move, and Daniel Cruz specifically, because he's the reason why I brought this up to Bobby earlier. You watch them move, and you're like, holy cow, like this is special stuff. Yeah. And Daniel Cruz, it lines up with what we've seen on film over the last 2 years, and this year especially, once he moved to center, the lateral movement and the quickness off the ball after the snap is so impressive. Then you combine that with the reach, the push, everything that you want in a guy that can create running lanes in the middle of your offensive line is Daniel Cruz. And we saw that a little bit yesterday in practice at the Under Armour All-American first practice in Orlando. You start to see just why he is so coveted and why Texas and Coach Kyle Flood loved him so much, because they took him over, what is considered to be the number one interior offensive lineman prospect in the state. They loved Daniel Cruz that much, and seeing him in person against the best of the best in the country, he was moving people effortlessly. It was impressive. And I think that we'll be able to see, because I think Daniel Jones and Jarrett Gibson are on the same team. On Wednesday, whenever this game plays and they're able to, kind of get some running game going there, you'll see the future of the interior run game for the Texas Longhorns with Jarrett Gibson and Daniel Cruz right in front of them. So that was really encouraging. And again, just being able to move those 315, 20-pound guys that are national 4-star blue chip prospects that you don't normally see inside, the DFW region, aside from like an Alex January. It was, the icing on the cake for me in Daniel Cruz.
Let me ask you this. He's ranked number 149 overall, or excuse me, 196 overall in the On3 consensus ranking. You think that's about right? You think he's higher than that? What do you think?
I think 120 would be about fair. I think this week, if he has a good weekend, I know a 70-spot jump, especially this late from a top 200 prospect, likely isn't realistic. But he is an Under Armour All-American. There's only 60 of these guys, and there's a reason why he was selected and chosen to come out to Orlando to be a part of it. He was really impressive yesterday.
All right, Sandman here trying a couple of my spots here. Cafe Du Monde earlier this morning. He also that he was at Mother's. I told you all about Mother's in New Orleans. It opens at 7 a.m. Crawfish etouffee omelet, Rod.
It's amazing. Love it, man. Oh,
Rod knows it. He's got family from Louisiana. He knows how that feels.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Hey, speaking of Louisiana, look at this. John Brown, Guten Tag, and Happy New Year from Germany. Well, it will be in 50 minutes. Last year, watching Texas football at early morning hours and back to Texas in 6 months. 6 months. John will be there waiting on you, buddy.
Godspeed, bro.
Yeah, Godspeed. That's exactly right. Hey, this is from Marco Mendez. Rod, what tendency do you think Sark breaks? Do you think it's more PK in the blitz? That's based on what you said earlier. What do you think?
I think one of them is going to be, or at least it should be, early down pass rate for Sark. I think he usually is around maybe 45% early down, like first down pass rate. Sometimes in his script against Oklahoma State, he was closer to 55% early on first down pass rate. I think he should approach 60% versus Washington. Their most vulnerable defensive down, at least passing defense wise, which they're one of the worst passing defenses in college football, is first down. They give up a lot of yards on first down. The passer rating for opposing quarterbacks and the completion percentage, all the highest of any downs are on first down. Sark likes to throw the ball on first and second down. Those are the two most effective passing downs for Texas. On third down, as we know, especially third and long, that's where Washington does most of their damage. Completion percentage drops. Opposing completion percentage drops to about 48% on third and long situations. Passer rating drops to about 67% on third and long situations. You don't want to be in third and long versus this team. They run a lot of those simulated pressures, look like a blitz, smell like a blitz, feels like a blitz, but it's not a blitz. Second level, third level pressures. Texas had issues with that last season, even this season versus Rice, versus Iowa State. We saw some of that. So if Texas, you want to stay ahead of the chains versus this group, the way to do that is throwing on early downs, not taking shots. I'm talking about high percentage passes, screens, quick throws, RPOs, easy completions, because I think Washington's going to give you that. Now they might decide they want to come play bump and run coverage. If they do, look great. If they want to play bump and run coverage on you, then as Mr. Burns would say, excellent. All right, you want that all day, every day. I don't think they're going to do that. And they're gonna be judicious about when they do that, and they will give you the easy completions. Take that, and then you can use the running game to kind of complement how you want to open up, pass to open the run, which, by the way, is what Sark wants to do. I think he has curtailed that for the sake of the team, but I think I would like, he wants to close with the running game, open up with the passing game. I would get a little bit more extreme in that philosophy in this game. I think that's a great tendency breaker for him in this matchup. Put it on. Listen, Quinn's playing his best football. Jay Brooks, your Doak Walker Award winner, got hurt. Their best asset on defense is their rush defense. Like, why put your, I'm not saying your weakness, but one of your weakest assets up against their strongest asset, which is their rush defense? Nah, man, Quinn's balling, playing the best football we've ever seen him play. Even in this game last season, he was balling. You got your full complement of weapons. I would showcase that. They can't match up with your weapons, especially guys like JT Sanders. And as you point out, Jay Witt's gonna be a man-to-man coverage all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. You just can't afford to double or bracket them. I would open up with the passing game.
Got it. All right. Look, Rod and CJ, we've got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of football being played, of course, bowl games, pro football. QWERTY came up with a good one. Cowboys won. The Texans won also. The Eagles lost. Longhorns, please complete the trifecta. But you know what? He then went a bit further. Wait, I forgot to mention OU and A&M also losing, and Arkansas not even making the postseason. I think that's a pretty good start to the bowl season for the Longhorn fans right now. We need to keep it going in that direction. I think tomorrow night.
The mojo.
Absolutely. All right, we got a couple more things to go over here tonight. Again, it's the Longhorn Livestream Sunday afternoon tonight instead of the Sunday evening one. So you guys can get out and do whatever you want to do this evening with you and yours. Hey, Rod, Hookham has a question about you or for you. What was the blitz rate Penix faced this year and the completion rate against it? You said something like below 60% against the blitz.
Okay, here's the pro football. I'll get a pro football focus number. Let me pull it up here. Okay, so he completed 59% of his passes against the blitz. This is from Pro Football Focus. They say that's 53rd best in the country. So you're not going to always get to him because he's so comfortable in that system and he gets rid of the football. But if he's just getting rid of the football for the sake of getting rid of it just a little bit earlier or with an erratic throw, that's a win for Texas, in my opinion. And I think if you do bring the pressure, if you're bringing it from the second level, you're blitzing, I think the interior is the best way to go. If you bring the interior pressure and then I double down on it because you already got, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, you're going to have open gaps in the interior. They just can't block. They can't even block those two guys, let alone somebody else you're bringing in the interior. And that's when you can flush him from the pocket. And outside the pocket, his completion percentage drops to 47%. So you want to blitz him, but you want to blitz him to get him outside the pocket. You blitz him from the edge, he can step up in the pocket, maneuver within the pocket, and then make some clutch throws and get rid of the football, within 0 to 9 yards. Really good receivers. I would try to force him out of the pocket, and I would blitz him through the interior gaps if I'm going to do it.
Let me ask you this, Rod. Isn't the idea to make, just generally, the idea to make Michael Penix do something he's not comfortable doing?
Period.
It's just overall, right? No matter how it actually occurs, whether it's Ethan Burke suddenly finding a pass rush lane, even if it's outside, you know what I mean? I know you're saying come up the middle, but it's really just getting him off his spot and making him a little uncomfortable more than normal, right? That you need that. Like you need 1 or 2 extra stops a game helps you win this game, however they come.
True. Agreed. Yeah. However, whatever that game plan is, I think it's got to be multifaceted, though, right? I think he's really good.
I got you. So there's not enough. You can't just.
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah. It's got to be more than that. I get it.
Yes. And the one thing I'm mentioning, that's just step one. I think you got to have pre-snap and post-snap looks need to be different. So you're going to shift your safeties and move around your back seven. That could put you at a disadvantage. They catch a guy out of position, right, in certain situations. But I think you got to do it to confuse him. His only interception last year was when Texas was moving around that back seven and changing up the pre-snap and the post-snap. I think you're going to have to play bump and run coverage some. You didn't do it last season. And you defended the deep ball really well. They were only 1 of 10 on 20-plus yard passes, but they really got a lot of underneath passes, especially on money downs, 3rd and 4th down. You took away a lot of the troublesome concepts, inside breaking routes, targets to bunch formation, when you started playing bump and run coverage aggressively in the last 2 games against Oklahoma State and Tech. But Oklahoma State decided to take you up top when you did that, double moves, out and up, things of that nature. So if they did it, Washington's going to do it. That's going to be their natural adjustment. And this is a team that takes their time. We talked about this. They don't really go up tempo a lot. I think they will and probably should to break tendency, different discussion. But I think against Texas, they'll take their time to find the right matchup. Why not? You got 3 NFL wide receivers. Why the hell are you going to hurry up when you can figure out, I got Romo Odunze versus a freshman. It's exactly what I want. Here we go. So I think that's why they're going to take their time. And I think you got to mix up the looks when they do that. Interior pressure, play some bump and run coverage. And then I think that's, and like I said, it's a lot of different things you can do, but those are a few of the things that I would do.
Well, you mentioned just something right there, Rod, that was interesting. You talked about maybe speeding it up a little bit. That's something that the Big 12 or the athletic article that CJ referenced earlier, one of the Big 12 analysts thought that they would try to hurry Texas up because then the big guys up front get a little tired. CJ, you agree with that kind of sentiment? Even though we know, to Rod's point, why would they hurry up if they have a strategic advantage being slow from the receiver position? You read that article the same as I did. What was your takeaway from that?
And it's funny, I almost want to say it feels like that analyst might have been from the Oklahoma side of things.
Right. Yeah, I agree too. Yeah.
Because that's exactly what Oklahoma did. And that's a staple of Jeff Lebby's offense. When you look at the team that gave Texas the most fits defensively, it was Oklahoma. Granted, there were a few short fields that Oklahoma had the advantage of scoring on afterward. But in that sense that Oklahoma kept going fast to keep the bodies on the field for quite a while, that pass rush was unable to get to Dillon Gabriel. They were able to get pressure, but that last, kind of bit of effort, that ounce of energy that you needed to get the quarterback down to the ground, Texas didn't necessarily have that. Now, we've talked about it. Penix is not Gabriel. He's not going to beat you the same way that DG did on the ground. That's not his game. That's not his, I guess, kind of build and makeup as a quarterback. But he is mobile enough to step outside the pocket and obviously experienced enough to look down the field and find a guy that he needs to that will be streaking down the field once the play, breaks down. But it is that little bit of effort that the defensive linemen get tired. There's no hiding that. Devondre Sweat huffs and puffs just as much as any other defensive lineman in the country. But that's one of those things. If you're able to negate that push because of going fast and tempo, it's something that Washington would be foolish not to at least try for a series or two.
Got it. Hey, a couple questions here. Hook 'em 24/7. Has anything changed with Derek Williams, or is he still out in the first half? He is definitely still out in the first half. Sark confirmed that a couple of days ago as well. This one from Chris Bird. I'd like to get your take on this, Rod and CJ. I may give my own as well. If both teams play their best game, Longhorns win by a touchdown? Question mark. Do the Longhorns win by a touchdown if they play their best game? What do you think?
A touchdown. That's a big number. I think they win, no doubt. If both teams play their best game. I don't know about a touchdown. The only reason I say I don't know about a touchdown because that also includes the coaches. Kevin DeBoer is a hell of a coach. They do have the quarterback advantage. So you're saying the second best, player in the country based on the Heisman voting, or the second best quarterback in the country is going to play his best game, along with all the wide receivers playing their best game. Braylon Trice is a first round pick, potentially at defensive end. He's going to play his best game. That's a lot. I mean, the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line playing their best game too. A touchdown may be a big number, man. I think if they play their best game, we're talking about last-minute possession. Whoever gets it last, maybe win it, game-winning touchdown. By the way, and they got Penix, who's got 5 game-winning touchdowns in his career, game-winning touchdown drives in his career. And I don't know if Quinn's got 1, I think, in his career. Not that he can't do it. I know he can do it, but he just hadn't had a lot of opportunities to do it. I don't know about the touchdown. I'll say Texas wins, though.
I'm the complete opposite way. I think Texas stretches that to a two possession score. If Texas plays their best game and Washington gives them their A+ game as well, Texas wins. But if Texas, outplays Washington in any instance, and Washington comes up to anything short of a A+ game, it's going to be a 2-possession game. Again, I'm looking through the scores of Washington in their Pac-12 games. Aside from Cal, who they beat by 27, yet still allowing 32 points to, the margins of victory are 7, 3, 8, where they didn't score an offensive touchdown. 9, 10 against USC, where they still allowed 42. 7, 2, 3, and 3. They've not played an A+ game on both sides of the ball this year. Not against a Power 5 team. Texas has, and they did so in what I would consider against Baylor, A+ game, Alabama, A+ game. There's been multiple instances this year where a complete outing from the Texas side kind of, you saw those 30-point wins, and it still kind of looked ugly because of what they left on the board in the red zone. If that's cleaned up, which it has been over the last 2 weeks, Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, 2 more A+ games, I think Texas has the juice to beat, a Washington team by double digits if they play their A+ best game. So that's kind of up to, the Texas side of things to execute and come out to the field. So I'm with it. I see it.
Look, I think that I do think that if Texas plays its best game, I'm worried that Texas is not going to play its best game because they've had this month-long wait, right? We talked about how, Texas was peaking at the right time. If Texas and Washington played the week after the Big 12 and the Pac-12 championship, this line wouldn't have been 3.5, 4 points. The weight, it may give more weight to the quarterback in Penix being a more experienced guy. But look, I think that Texas has elements of the better team. I think that Washington, just like we said at the very outset, has some strategic advantages. The receivers versus the Texas secondary, they're going to be able to get open. And it's going to take some kind of player or players creating, off what do you call it? Not off kill, but off timing plays. So they're going to it's going to be Byron Murphy rushing the passer, getting free on a 2nd and 6 that makes it 3rd and 15, right? It's going to be those kind of plays that I think will ultimately decide the game. And we'll see who wins the better of it. Washington likes to get people in 3rd and long. That's kind of what their game plan is. Texas really is not even about that, although they've done a good job of it this year. They're specializing in getting off the field, period. Right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's 3rd and 2 and somebody tries to run up the gut and Tavondre Sweat tackles them for a loss, right? Or Jalen Ford meets them in the hole. Texas is just getting out of there. I want to see what Texas can do tomorrow, guys. I mean, it's the $1 million question, I guess. This one from William Niche, guys. Who's better prepared? Do we have a way to answer that? Both teams could come out sharp, or one could come out looking rough. Hoping to see a sharp Texas on both sides of the ball. I agree. This latency, right? Rod, speak to that because you've been part of it, man. You've seen the latency. You've seen the layoff matter in either a negative or positive way.
Yeah, I honestly, with the history of Sark, I actually think Sark's game planning preparation actually has been some of the best in the country since he's been at Texas. Remember, that's not the problem with Sark. The problem with Sark was always he would lose the battle of adjustments, right? There's the battle of game planning preparation throughout the week. Sark's teams are usually good at that. Hell, he even gets a lead, double digits sometimes leads, right? 3 touchdown leads on teams because their game planning preparation is pretty on point. What Sark would often lose is the chess match within the game. Right, the battle of adjustments is 4 quarters, and Sark's game plan pretty much lasts 1.5 quarters. Then after that, we got halftime, and then we got 3rd and 4th quarter. You got to make your adjustments, and that's where Texas in Sark's first 2 years were failing. This year, Sark has shown me that he can win the battle of adjustments. He can win the chess match within the game, become a chess master. So I do think Texas will have a really good game plan and preparation offensively. And I think defensively, the game plan for PK will make a lot of sense because I think it'll be based on last year's game plan, which was pretty successful limiting the passing offense for Washington. Remember, they lowest yards per attempt for Penix in the last 2 years, completion percentage below 60%. I mean, low. It was his longest incompletion streak of the season. Only 1 deep ball completed the entire game out of 10. That was good. But it couldn't stop the run because you played with lighter boxes and your safeties were late rotating to the run. And they gassed you 150 plus yards, 5.5 yards per rush. And their money downs, you just couldn't stop 3rd and 4th down. They were converting over and over again, 56% completion percentage, conversion percentage on money downs. This year, you can use that same game plan, but you're a top 5 rushing defense this year, and you're a top 5 3rd down defense this year. You were not that last year. You were middle of the road or below average in both of those categories. I almost would start with that game plan and see if, they can gash me with it again. And then I would make my adjustments from there, throwing in some, interior pass rush, interior blitzes, some bump and run coverage every now and then sparsed in there, changing up my looks pre-snap and post-out, which they did. Going back and watching, they actually did a lot more of that than I thought last season too, which I thought helped them. So the game plan last year actually worked. You just had 2 holes. Those 2 holes are now your strengths on defense when they were weaknesses last year.
Let me ask you this, Rod. You think back to the Alabama game this year. Alabama actually started off the game running the ball pretty well against Texas.
They did.
And then Texas just shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
You think maybe Texas gives them that kind of look early to give them a false sense of security and running the ball maybe a little bit, maybe bait them into it some?
Hey, man, if they want to run the ball to beat us, I'd invite them to do it. You mean I can take the ball out of Penix's hands and them three NFL wide receivers and the first – you know what? If you want to beat me running the ball, please, let's go. That's why I would go like boxing. I'm like, man, go ahead. Hand it off. When you pass the 50, we'll start stressing out, and then we'll have to, as you get close to the red zone, then we'll bow our backs, and then we'll make some plays. But if I can if I can convince you to take the ball out of Michael Penix's hands, the guy that finished second in the Heisman, who can distribute the ball to all those explosive wide receivers, I already won. In my opinion. I'm winning. That's chess match, baby.
I gotta say this about that running back. A lot of people haven't heard this, but Last year about this time, we thought Jaden Blue was going to transfer. He had legitimate thought about it. And Texas was in the process, because of that, of trying to go find another running back. One of the running backs that they reached out to was Dylan Johnson.
Wow.
So
Nice
the Texas coaches know of Dylan Johnson and realize that he's not just another guy, right? He's a guy that they would probably like. Hey, Matt, could you do us a favor? Matt, our producer's on the line here. CJ wanted us to bring up the stat line that ESPN put up and has been talking about for about 24, 48 hours. CJ, go take us through this and why you think this is so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's interesting because the slow starts at home, especially early in the year against Rice, Wyoming, they were interesting. They were kind of head scratching. Why is Texas not fully able to, maximize the output from their offense, which we all know has a lot of talent? And then you watch them on the road, especially in the first half of games. And this is to the point that we talked about of coming out and really being aggressive early on. Texas on the road this year, with the exception from Iowa State, has been tremendous. You look at Alabama to start the year, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns for Quinn. On the road against Oklahoma, aside from the rough first half, Ewers goes out and goes 18 for 19 and leads what was a pretty impressive second, third, and early fourth quarter run for the Longhorns. Texas gets up 20 against TCU and Houston on the road, both early in the first half. And I know things kind of fizzled out in a couple of these games, but the starts here, and that's what I wanted to emphasize, the starts for the Texas offense away from home, even Oklahoma State and Dallas, we saw it. They're tremendous so far this year away from home. And I'm not exactly sure why that is the case, because you normally think a kid that loves Texas and loves, the why is that so drastically different? But it kind of gives me a false sense of hope and confidence that, yeah, it's just another road game for Quinn, almost exactly where he'd prefer to be. And I wanted to get your thoughts on why that might be. And if, is that something that maybe you don't want to say you can expect to see tomorrow, but is that something that you think, carries over with Quinn mentally?
I will say this, having, and I don't want to take Rod's thunder here, perhaps.
No, go ahead, brother.
But when guys go on the road in college, it's different than when you're on the road in the pros, because the pros they already know how to hone in. They already know how to focus, or else they wouldn't be pros in the first place, right? They've figured that out. College players, they take most of Friday off. They know they got to be somewhere at a certain time and get going. Whereas a home game, they're a little more free with their time. But a road game, it's very structured. Be here, do this.
It's true.
It's almost, I feel like that happens a lot because the players have to focus, right? On a road game, you're forced to go on a plane and wear a coat and tie, or, you know what I mean? And you have this and that you have to do. Whereas if you're just going to, wherever Texas is staying now, the Four Seasons or whatever, at a home game, it's kind of go there when you want to, drive your own car. You know what I mean, guys? Mm-hmm. And I think that level of focus, it helps players like Quinn Ewers, and the people he's throwing to, by the way, be more devoted to what they're going to do the next day. Rod, did you ever see that in your time on the 40?
I think that's on the money, Bobby. I really do. I think that's the only thing I'll add to it, because I don't think there's anything much to add. I think you nailed it. Is that I do think some guys, they find comfort on the road, and it's kind of adding to what Bobby said. They find comfort on the road because you are away from some of the obligations that you would have. He's starting quarterback at Texas. I had obligations at home that I was like, oh man, I got to get the tickets ready. I got this. Oh, this person still wanted to go, do this when I did have some free time, all these things. When you're on the road, you really can kind of zone in. You got one task, and and all the other kind of responsibilities, obligations you may have, that stuff kind of, it's put on the back burner. You can't really ignore some of that stuff when you're at. So some guys kind of find solitude, and they find some comfort being on the road like that, and with their team, us against the world. Or maybe the man just likes being in them icy whites, man. It could just be when he's in them icy whites, he just plays really well. I don't know. Maybe something like that.
I love it. I love it. Hey, with a month to heal, do you think Ewers might use his legs more? Maybe not called runs, but on scrambles. And then combine this, guys. What about maybe where it is, Michael Penix running a little more himself, given what OU did with Dylan Gabriel? Washington has not run Penix much at all. You wouldn't think they would now, given that the fact if he goes down, they don't have a chance in heck to win a football game, much less win the national championship. Neither Texas is in better position at quarterback, in my opinion. If both or either starter were to go down, Washington would be in trouble. Yeah, they're not winning a national championship with QB2. Texas probably isn't either. But do you think that they might run Penix more or run Penix like Gabriel? And then B, do you think Quinn, because he's a little bit further along from his injury, might be a little more aggressive with the run?
A quarterback draw here there, but I can't see them doing what Oklahoma did and making it the staple of your game plan. Now, it was an amazing tendency breaker. It was the most rushing yards and attempts that Dylan Gabriel's ever had in his career. But no, I can't see him doing it just because of the reason Bobby mentioned. It's just too much on the line. You got a chance to beat them with this, protecting this guy from the pocket with the best offensive line in college football. Yeah, I think every now and then you could get a quarterback draw though, or he scrambles. I think the same thing for Quinn though. I don't think Sark's gonna risk it too much either with kind of designed runs. We've seen that from Sark lately. Every now and then, remember the Baylor game, you got the quarterback keeper, that kind of stuff. I don't think you'll see any of that. If scrambling, these guys want to go make a play, that's still on the table. And considering the magnitude of the game and what's on the line, I could totally see that happen. Them quarterbacks saying, "F it, it's on the line. It's everything I got." And Penix is that kind of guy. He got that dog in him. I don't think he's a guy that's going to be thinking about the NFL, that kind of stuff. It's a guy that's had, multiple injuries and has kind of risen like a, phoenix from the ashes. He believes they're a team of destiny, and he believes, he's the guy that's going to lead them as this team of destiny kind of thing. So I think I will see him do it, but not designed, just because of, he thinks he can make a play.
I think early on,
a phoenix from the ashes, by the way, Rod. Go ahead, CJ.
Oh, well done.
How'd you miss that one, huh?
How'd I miss it?
Well, no, I think early on, what you said, Rod, will be both coaching staff saying, take what you can get and get down. This is going to be one of those, do not let yourself take that hit, because one, Quinn, we've seen you get banged up from big hits. And Penix, you simply don't have anyone behind you right now that can come in and run this offense to the level that we expect to, at least compete for a championship with. So I think if the game's not on the line, it's not one of those we need to have it kind of plays right now. It's going to be get down, protect yourself, live to see another down, at least through the quarterback runs. And Ewers at times I think is a little too good at that in the pocket when he kind of takes the self sacks. That's going to be something where I don't think it won't be in play today or tomorrow night. He'll be looking to make a play. He'll be looking to stretch things, but he'll also be looking to protect himself. Yeah. So I think that will, at least for the first three quarters, both quarterbacks will not be taking many hits should they extend past the line of scrimmage.
All right. Guys, need to say thank you to our sponsor and want to. On Texas Football, the live stream on Sunday, brought to you by the folks at the Cross Oak Group. Cross Oak is one of the leading government affairs firms in Texas, specializing in lobbying, political communications, business development, and regulatory compliance. These days, government finds ways to impact nearly every aspect of your business. With decades of experience ranging from the State House to the White House, Cross Oak Group helps its clients hedge risk and protect and grow their bottom lines. To learn more, go to www.crossoakgroup.com. Guys, that makes me lead to this next piece. I went over, our producer, Matt Hutchison, and I went over to Manning's today to do some pre-work, making sure the audio worked, and we could get Rod B piped in from Austin live into the Manning's Bar and Grill over in New Orleans in the warehouse district right next to Harrah's. And I was over there and I started snapping a few pictures. And they had maybe, 1,000 pictures on the wall from Archie and all these guys, different tenures, Manning Passing Academy, etc. I caught one picture that I want Matt to pull up if he would, and see if you guys recognize. Matt's like, wait, I don't have the picture. It should be in your email, Matt. Check your email. I emailed it to him. He'll bring it up. But I want y'all to see this picture because it is a picture of a very young man, Arch Manning. We had him. He was there. Archie Manning's supposed to be there tomorrow as well. I'm Matt saying he still doesn't have it, so I'm gonna have to resend it or give him my phone to come get it. Matt, come get my phone. And then we're staying the same Airbnb here in New Orleans. But long and short of it, guys, Manning's tomorrow. We start at 8 a.m. with coffee and football, myself, CJ, and Blake Monroe. And then Rod, you and I and CJ on beginning at 10 a.m. We're going to have a number of different Texas dignitaries / former players, etc., on with us throughout the day. Hopefully you guys can come out and join us. It's also a benefit to support the Texas One Fund. If you want to ever go donate, TexasOneFund.org. We appreciate them. All right, we have a couple more questions we can get to here. Got about 10 to 15 minutes left in this live stream. William Niche, I believe Worthy has his best game of the season, and Sanders will dominate as well. I'm going to say this. I'm not mentioning anything about Xavier Worthy's injury. A couple of people asked me how healthy he is. 48-hour rule, guys. No words on any injuries, period. End of story. If there's more than one, etc. What do y'all think about Worthy and Sanders in this game, Rod and or CJ?
If you get the best game out of Xavier Worthy tomorrow night, Texas is winning that game. Because that entails it's going to be a pretty big game from what we've already seen from him this season. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, X-Man's best game was at TCU, 10 for 137. So, I mean, you get that from X-Man, and I already know from a guy like JT Sanders is the guy. This X-Man, this is my thing about X-Man having a big game. I think he could have a huge game, him or A.D. Mitchell. But these DBs, they're accustomed to seeing really good wide receivers. I mean, they see them in practice. They see NFL wide receivers literally every day in practice. It's not going to shock their system. Even in the Pac-12, they've actually seen 4 of the top 11, 12 best passing offenses in the country. They've even seen really good quarterback play. Quarterbacks who are considered better than Quinn Ewers, wide receivers who are good, just as good. What they don't see and they have not seen, and nobody really sees, is a guy like JT Sanders. You're just not ready for that at tight end. You don't really have an answer for that. Nobody does. I mean, Alabama didn't. If Alabama, which recruits better than anybody else in the country, other than Georgia potentially, if they didn't got an answer for it, I don't think anybody has an answer for JT Sanders, and I know Washington doesn't. So I like the latter part of that statement even more than the former, because I think X-Man could have a great game, but the DBs ended up, winning their fair share. I wouldn't be shocked because they make a lot of plays on the ball. This group of DBs, they make a lot of they take a lot of chances, make some plays on the ball. The passes that JT Sanders would get, the targets he get, they wouldn't make a lot of plays on it because it wouldn't be their DBs mostly. It'd be maybe their safeties, some of the linebackers, but there's no answer for JT Sanders. There isn't.
That's correct.
Hey, you were saying, I think it was you that was saying this the other day. When JT Sanders catches the ball, there's usually not five. There's usually a lot of times not a guy 5 to 10 yards within him. No. He did that against Alabama twice. Yeah. He's done that repeatedly throughout the season, where Sark kind of just schemes him open into an entire area of the field that nobody else is at, whether Worthy or Adonai Mitchell has run him off or what have you. I mean, he just seems to be able to get into that depth where he can do a lot of damage. I want to bring this question up based off of that. Who do you think the X factor is on offense for Texas, and the X factor on defense for Texas to win this game?
Well, I like CJ's answer here because I think I know his answer going to be for offense. I'll see them.
Yeah, no, it's on offense for me. It's whichever tackle is lined up at that current snap opposite of Braylon Trice. And
I knew it.
That's exactly it. I feel very confident if Texas is able to neutralize him just enough, that offense will be able to move down the field and be in positions to put points on the board. And I think that's important because if you don't put points on the board, at least you'll be in a position where it's not advantageous for Washington to take the ball over immediately and be in a position to score otherwise. So that's my point on offense. And I think it's got to be one of those big games from a Byron Murphy or Tavondre Sweat in the middle. If you stop that run game and make it a very one-dimensional approach from Washington, and I know that passing offense is good, and we've talked about it the last month and a half basically, if they can't run the football and Texas is able to drop back a little bit more in coverage and know what's coming to them, it's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Yep.
What do you have, Rod?
I like that. I think I just described it. I'll stick with my JT Sanders on offense just because I don't think they have an answer for it. Defensively, X factor. Does it have to be a player? Are we talking about a scheme? You know what? I'll go PK, man. I know this sounds crazy, but PK. Earlier I brought up that it's not going to be just one level of that defense, one aspect of it that's going to be able to stop and neutralize Michael Penix. It's going to be a team effort. It's going to take the pass rush. It's going to take the DBs showing different looks, the cornerbacks outside playing some press, being left on an island, winning their fair share. It's going to take, I think the linebackers will be brought into it because I think they're going to have to blitz actually in the interior a lot from the second level. I think they're going to play with lighter boxes. So the front 7 or front 6, or they end up being, I think they're going to play a huge role just stopping the run even when they're outnumbered. So I just think PK's got to dial it up the right way, man. PK's going to he's going to know when to press the corners, when not to, when to move around the safeties, when not to, when to blitz, when not to, what lineup to play. Hell, can you guys tell me what lineup you're going to start out with? Do you start out with, obviously, Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat, but is it Byron Murphy, T'Vondre Sweat, and then you go after Collins out there? You know what I mean? Or you going Ethan Burke and Barron Sorrell out there? You start with your, the package with, Mo Blackwell. I have no idea which way he's going to go. That's also going to be, I think, a really important factor for PK, the lineups. Because if I'm Washington and I see you out there with a lineup that ain't got T'Vondre Sweat or Byron Murphy in it, I'm going tempo. I'm keeping that group on the field, right? We're going to have a plan for that. Hey, they got our group. Let's go. Let's get this first down, and let's keep this group on the field. We're converting. That's what we want to do, and keep this group on the field and not substitute a damn thing. And that's where I'd go. And T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy can't play the whole game. Now, do you go, all right, you know what? If that's the case, if T'Vondre Sweat, if Byron Murphy can't play the whole game, then maybe there are certain lineups where you have Sweat out there without Murphy, Sweat with, maybe an Alfred Collins out there or a Byron Murphy out there, and then he's got an Alfred Collins or somebody. Like, I don't know how. I think you might think about mixing up that group after you start them off together, just so that Washington isn't thinking, "Oh, I got the group I like." I think they'll do that with the safeties too. Now, without Derek Williams, that's easier. But I see the secondary group I like. I'm going, all right, I like this. Let's go. We go in tempo. Now, they don't do that. That would be a tendency breaker. But in terms of keeping the personnel you want out there, that's a great way to do it. As CJ mentioned, that's how Oklahoma did it.
All fair.
I like that point, Ron.
I want to add this, and you mentioned Oklahoma, and I'm gonna bring this stat up. Rob Falter with maybe one of the better posts that we've had in a couple of days, because we haven't really talked about turnovers, right? We've talked about them in pieces. The one game we lost, we were -3 in turnovers against Oklahoma. Don't turn the ball over, and we win.
And think about where they turned the ball over in that game too.
I like that. Yep.
Yeah, if you're able to score on 4th and goal, first and goal from the 1, that's another point, because that also was a turnover. Those easy points that kept points off the board and gave Oklahoma easy scores. If you're giving Washington 75 yards to continually drive down the field, I don't know. But I like Texas's chances for more than 20 points. I like that.
I mean, you're right. Texas, the other games Texas got in trouble with, they turned the ball over, didn't move. I mean, you think about Kansas State. They had Kansas State on the ropes and blocked punt. Failed 4th down conversion. Those sorts of things hurt Texas at the end of the first half and made the game tight the rest of the way. All right, we got something from Edmund Lee. He's been a staunch watcher of On Texas Football, listener for a long time.
Thanks, Edmund.
Cheers to OTF, On Texas Football. What a great year so far. Just win tomorrow night. Let's start 2024 off the right way, guys. How about that?
Baby.
Keep up the great intel and coverage. It will be an exciting, great game. Love JT loosen their secondary. Hook 'em horns and Nola hook 'em. All right.
Amen, brother. I like that.
That's a great way to end this, I believe, and talk a little bit further. We got one more here from Heath. If I missed this discussion, my fault, but tell us about the opt-out every bowl game missing starters. Can these guys opt out before game time, turn the game on and sweat at all, not playing? Of course they can, but most of those guys wouldn't even be in town if that were the case.
Yeah.
We get what you're saying, but and I will add this: this isn't the Alamo Bowl, right? If Oklahoma were playing for the national title picture or whatever in the playoff, Dylan Gabriel wouldn't have transferred yet.
Nope.
Yeah.
We all agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
All right.
so you didn't see any of these top 4 teams have opt-outs of any considerable notice. You did see half of Florida State haul butt, because they were playing in an Orange Bowl that didn't matter, and you see the outcome 63-3.
Yep.
So I don't see that. I don't think we'll see that. I mean, I think if somebody's hurt, they might be held out, but other than that, I don't know. I don't see that really an issue. So we'll see if that goes. Anything else you guys want to mention before we get going? It's a little bit after 5:00 here in New Orleans. CJ and I get started early tomorrow morning. Rod Babers, you're going to be on early, I know, as well. And we all join up at 10 o'clock at Manning's in NOLA. Guys, anything y'all want to say to the fans and folks before we get going? The last show here of 2023, barring, by the way, any late breaking news tonight, and I have to come back and do a video. But barring that, do you guys have any final thoughts for 2023?
I want to say the last 2 weeks have been a blast. And so I've been, very thankful for the OTF community for, I guess, embracing me as quickly as you did. And, as crazy as the last, couple of days and weeks have been, it's been a blast. And I'm, looking forward to obviously tomorrow and what comes after that. So thank you, Bobby. Rod, thanks for having me on. Matt, what you do behind the scenes is great. And to everybody that's watching right now, this has been a blast. Thank you.
You're a good young dude. You're a good young dude for saying that, CJ. Rod, you have anything?
That's a great message, CJ. No, man, 2023 has been a great year. I don't know. I'm kind of sad to see it go. Longhorns balling. I had my first baby girl in 2023. It's been a really good year, man. Joining the On Texas football crew. It's a great crew. It's a great family and a great community that Bobby has started to build here, and I'm happy to be a part of that too. And the Longhorn community, man, we've been through it for the last 14 years or so, and it seems like there are brighter days on the horizon. So I'm excited about that and excited to be a part of this. So glad CJ's on board too. So things are only looking bright for us and looking brighter for Texas football.
Hey, we got to do one last thing here, Rod. I promised y'all that picture. From the Manning.
Yeah.
Matt, our producers, brought it up. Look at that little guy on the right.
Wow, look at that.
Who do y'all think that is? That's a little Art Scanning, and I believe that's his younger brother, younger brother, Hyde.
He looks exactly the same.
Yep, they do.
That's wild. He looks exactly the same.
Man. He got the man in face.
Yeah, he does. Hey, so that
was there.
That's pretty good.
Great.
That's pretty cool. That's
all right. I want to say one last thank you for 2023 to a person that has meant a lot to us at On Texas Football. All of these things don't come together just poof and it happens. It requires people behind the scenes that go the extra mile for us. Matthew Hutchison, thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate you as well. And I want to say one last thing. Thank you to everyone that has joined the On Texas Football family this season. We've absolutely hurricanes on Bobby. Come to Pat O's. I'll be there sometime. But my point being, everybody, thank you all so much for making this a great stop. I know I speak for Rod, CJ, Coach Shipley, others that have been here, Ray Peters, Aaron Hogan. We really appreciate you guys. Jerry Hamilton before. We just always talked about how much we enjoyed sharing our passion of the Longhorns with other people who shared a passion with the Longhorns. That's really what, at the end of the day, it was always about for us. And 2023 in that way has made my dream come true in so many ways. So for CJ, Rod, and Matt behind the scenes, and everybody else involved, you guys go out, have a fun new year, and one last for 2023. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.